Welcome back to our next episode of the Doggone Truth About Rescue with Always and Forever. I know it's been a little bit. Life has been lifing, I think, for all of us. Fall gets a little hectic. Our other football season outside of spring season. And yeah, so got my amazing, wonderful, beautiful co-host, Cyrita Napaloo, with us tonight.
If they could only see my facial expression.
You got to speak louder than that. Hi. Of course, since it's been so long, we just need to catch up on everything. So, Jennifer Dulski, Reverend Dulski, welcome back to our episode. And I'm just going to give you the mic and wherever you want to start because we're also getting filled in. I think the last time I saw you was our road trip down to Wichita.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I don't know if you want to start there.
Did we do a podcast about that
No.
after?
We were supposed to do a cats one, but then the scheduling wasn't working. And here we are.
Sometimes it's so much has passed in like a week that it's hard to recap a month. And every day with this rescue, something is so different and it captures your heart, your mind, your soul. And it really is a roller coaster. We did go to Wichita City Hall and we united as not always and forever, but as rescues, as citizens of the state of Kansas, as citizens from different states, citizens of Wichita, and we came together and we placed over 1,700 collars together on the steps of City Hall. And we basically stood in silent protest, prayer, reverence, whatever you want to call it, of just in so many ways disbelief of what has gone on in the city of Wichita and what they have allowed. Now, I could talk about Wichita for hours. And if you're not up to speed on what's going on in Wichita, I would encourage you to listen to our specific podcast about Wichita. Unfortunately, you guys, nothing has changed there. We continue to beg for help. We continue to offer services, and we are still blocked out by an agreement that the Kansas Humane Society requires in order for us to save a life from Wichita Animal Shelter. It's a very complicated situation where it's taxpayer funded money running Wichita Animal Shelter, where they only allow Kansas Humane Society to pull the dogs over to their side, and then they're allowed to send these dogs and cats out to rescue. So Kansas Humane Society controls the ability for any other rescue to save a life. And they require rescues to sign an agreement that says you will not say anything derogatory about Kansas Humane Society or Wichita Animal Shelter, or reference it, either one, as a kill shelter, or reference that one of these dogs or cats has a death sentence. Now, forget your First Amendment right to free speech. They're basically saying you cannot say the truth. Wichita Animal Shelter is a kill shelter. And there are death sentences on these animals.
10%, less than 10%, not.
10% or less with a live release. So 90% live release rate, then you are labeled as non-kill. I think right now they're at about 30% youth rate. And this is unheard of over the past decade. Now, prior to Beauties and Beasts helping, they were at 2 to 4% youth rate. So they were non-kill for almost a decade with Beauties in there. So we know it works. We know it can be done. But with the current leadership, they actually brought the lieutenant back that is responsible for pushing rescues out. And they promoted him to captain. So they brought him back. They put him in the position that he single-handedly forced out rescues with, gave him a promotion, paid him more, and now the youth rate continues to grow. Now there's a lot of very discerning and disheartening things that are happening with them trying to change the numbers and fudge the truth. But with the core reports and with the Freedom of Information Act, you guys, all the information is out there. These animals are dying. And, there's a lot of things where you don't know how it will change, but you know that you literally can never give up. You can never give up holding on to hope, because if you do, then it just basically condones what you're doing and you just walk away and they just continue to die. So, we have the advocacy group that we're members of. We're constantly reaching out. We're trying to figure out different ways, but in talking about it, one of the really simple solutions that could solve all this is if somebody donated a shelter. If they donated a shelter to Beauties and Beasts or Always and Forever, and we opened up a shelter and we just took all the animals in. And that's kind of the thing that always seems to solve the issues. You put the right people in charge of taking care of the animals, and then these issues can be addressed, because what do rescues know how to do? They know how to advocate, they know how to promote, they know how to network. We know how to save lives. Don't put a policeman in a job that he is not trained for. I don't think any police officer goes to the police academy to become a shelter manager. It just doesn't make sense. So to try to use logic in situations to where logic is not applied, it's very hard to convince the media and the public about this, especially citizens who believe that people are good. And I'm one of them. I always believe people are good. I can't find the good in the leadership that is condoning killing without using the help that's being offered by rescues. So that's
What I saw
the
the most
struggle.
was the people in Wichita, because outside of the callers, we did the walk. I think it was a
Yeah.
mile to the farmer's market and then a mile back. Two
Very
miles,
long
well,
walk.
not a mile.
Very long
Either
walk.
way, but the amount of people that stopped us or asked like what we were doing, what it was about, how many are unaware of the situation
Yeah.
and what's happening
In their own city.
in their own city, in their own backyard, and just have no idea.
Well, it's the largest city in Kansas. At least that's what they represented in the request for proposal, the RFP they put out last year, to where they did say that they were going to let rescues or somebody else that offered to come in to take care of the shelter. Now that went nowhere. So basically everything the city has promised that they were going to do to change it, it has become the opposite, and more animals are dying. And I don't think the general public wants to know. In some circumstances, it's hard to know about animals that are dying when people don't know how to change it. And that's why a lot of people say, I could never do what you do. I couldn't be in rescue because so many animals die every day, and I can't handle it. My heart, it takes too much. Well, the counter to that is you never know what your heart can take and what your heart can endure until you live it. So if you put limitations on your ability to love, your ability to go through loss, your ability to grieve and recover and survive, then you'll absolutely live up to those limitations. And that goes through everything. This week alone has been one of the hardest weeks. And I say one of the hardest, and that's not true.
Like, wait, I need
because every
details
time-
because we've had some pretty hard weeks this year.
Gosh, I guess I'll start with a week ago. A gentleman showed up at our door at our little red barn, and he said, I can't care for this dog. It was my girlfriend's dog, and she doesn't want anything to do with her. And he said, she can't walk. I don't know why. I took her to the vet. They said $7,000. I don't have $7,000. I said, is she aggressive in any way? That was my first question. And he said, no. And I get this message because you can't just show up at our barns and surrender your
Right.
dog. So let me put that disclaimer on that. We've had it happen one other time, and this happened, I think this was the very first day Michaela worked here. She messaged me and said, Jen, there's a guy out here. He brought his dog. He said, if we don't take him, he's going to shoot him and kill him. The father had already shot this dog. So this dog had been shot, and they said, if we don't take, we're going to kill him. What did we do? First question, is he aggressive? The dog's been shot. No, the grandfather said he was bugging the kids and the coyotes. You just get a lot of lies sometimes. But honestly, so we took that dog and we named him St. Francis, and his leg had to be amputated, and, facts and circumstances. And when it comes to saving a life, and when it's an emergency, we do it. We find a way. But so going back to just last Saturday, I got a message from our staff, Jen, there's a guy here with a dog. She's very sick. So I ran out. I know sick dogs, most shelters don't take. If they do, they're going to euthanize. He said he stopped at 3 different shelters and they said no, or they were going to euthanize her. I said, let me see her. And he picked her up and he set her down. And she kind of looked drunk. So her body was spinning, her legs were collapsing, and her head was just moving around. And I said, we will take her immediately. So I scooped her up, and he said, I'll carry her. And the staff, our staff is just amazing. He said, get a kennel ready. And he carried her and he put her in the kennel, and I immediately jumped on a med call. And I said, it's like she's drunk. I couldn't explain it any other way because everything was just wobbling and her world was spinning. And I guess there's this condition called, I don't know the medical condition, but it's basically the same as vertigo for humans and vestibular something like that. And Julie and our team thought maybe it's that. And I'm like, and that is curable. It's horrific to watch, but it's like a week and a half of letting it work through their system. Their world is off, but somehow they can like rehabilitate themselves naturally. And so we thought, okay, well, let's just get her an appointment. And I something in me said, I kept saying, I feel like she needs to go to Blue Pearl immediately, but really, it really could be this because all the signs are that. So Beth picked her up for the vet appointment. I think it was at like 2:00, and she brought her to our local vet. And they said, well, it's not that, because they did x-rays and there was nothing wrong with her back. And all the other signs weren't there for that. It was something more. It was very clearly neurological. And this is a 6-year-old, probably six-ish, like healthy, beautiful, red and white kind of hound dog, kind of Aussie something, just short haired, just beautiful. And there's something about her name is Mila Rose. And when you would look at her, when her head could stay still, like literally you would capture moments with her where her eyes would lock with you. And there was something in her that would just look at you and just say, help me. Like I'm inside of this body I can't control with my mind. So we knew we had to get her to Mission Med Vet because there's only one neurologist and he's the best in Kansas that was in our area. K-State is far. And so we got her to Mission right away. We found out that it was very clear that there was something going on in her brain. And they said, oh no, you can take her home, watch her for the weekend. We'll try steroids if nothing changes. I said, you can't send her back to me like this. Number one, she doesn't have a home. Like going back to a barn where she's not supervised at night, we have cameras, but to watch a dog like this, she needed immediate attention. And so finally, because the neurologist wasn't there, so they called him, and and I say this all the time, guys, you are your pet's only advocate when you go to the vet. If something doesn't right, if something is screaming inside of your soul that you need them to pay more attention to what you're saying, or you're going to know what's best for your pet sometimes. I don't have a vet degree. I don't have a medical degree, but I knew I couldn't take her home because she would have died. And we found out that she couldn't even pee on her own. So they had to put a catheter in. So eventually they ended up agreeing to keep her overnight. And the neurologist hadn't seen her, and they're like, it's just got to work it out. And he finally saw a video of her because he's off on Friday. So of course it's a Thursday night. He's off on Friday. They finally sent him a video of her, and he's like, it's definitely the brain. This is what we've been saying. I don't understand.
Now I have to put
listen to you. Like, it's like, come on, listen to us. And that's why I say, challenge them, talk back. Yes, we can put the disclaimer that was worth swearing for, because you have to speak up and you have to advocate for your animals. But he saw it, and he's just a wonderful man. And he did come in on Friday. He came in on Friday. And so what are they going to do? An MRI costs between $5,000 and $7,000. Now, this was a young, healthy dog that these conditions, we were told, just came on. Now, when it was a week ago, 2 days ago, we don't know, because she was literally dropped at our door that morning, and then we're rushing around. But what we could tell was her body was strong. So she didn't have much muscle atrophy. She hadn't been suffering like this for a long time. And she was young and healthy, and then something changed. So what would an MRI do? It would ultimately, we had hoped, would reveal what was making her sick, because if we could find out what the cause was, then we could either help her or let her go. And well, what are you looking for in an MRI, right? You're looking for a brain tumor. And that's really what everybody thought it was. And then, so I asked the really hard, awful questions. Okay, well, if we find a brain tumor, is there a chance we can surgically remove it? Does anybody do brain surgery on a dog? Yes, and not really. So why would we do an MRI then? Because somebody told me yes, and that we could. And if it was in that 1/100th of a chance or 1/1,000,000th of a chance that it was in one spot that this vet could do it, and she was healthy 3 days ago and we could make her healthy again, then it was worth finding out. Now, there was also the chance that we could find out that it was like meningitis or some type of very severe infection, and we could find that out from the MRI too. So within 24 hours, we were hit with a vet bill. You're talking up to $7,000 for an MRI. You're talking at least 6 days in the ICU, $13,000. Okay. And this also, The MRI could find out literally nothing. Okay. So what do? We don't have $13,000 sitting in the bank. And I'm like, forget it. What would you do for your own dog? You go all in. I would throw it on a credit card. I don't even have a credit card right now. But I just put it out there, and everybody believes that she was worth trying to save. It wasn't even saving. It was trying to save, to know if we could. So we did the MRI, and it came back with the results that there were brain abnormalities. And that's actually almost worse than a brain tumor, because the brain tumor we would know. It means that a normal brain looks like this, and her brain kind of looked off in like different areas. So there were shades to where they could tell that that is not normal, and that it was new. So how new it was, they don't know. What caused it, they don't know. So she was under, called Julie, call our amazing medical coordinator, and they said, we're going to do a spinal tap. We're going to rule out meningitis. We're going to rule out every other infection that we possibly can. And, we'll go from there. So did that, woke her up. This is now Friday. And I'm like, okay, so all day we're praying. I'm like, everybody pray, pray. And then it's like 8:00 at night. I'm like, okay, what are the results? What's going on? And she's like, well, it takes a week. And I'm like, oh my God, I thought we would find out that day. And she's like, no. And here's the worst part too. Let's say we find out it is something. I can't remember the term of it. Ultimately, even if we know what it is, this severe infection, not meningitis, it ended up not being that. Even if we determined what it was, one of these infections, 33% of dogs that are treated for it get better. 33% never change, even with being treated. And she would stay the way she is right now. And 33% get worse. And that's just by treating with steroids. So I said, okay, well, we don't know what it is. We're not going to know for a week. What do we do right now? Can't we just treat her with the assumption that it's something? Otherwise, she's just sitting and her world is spinning. So we did that. We started her on prednisone, and she took a really heavy dose at the hospital, and she stayed at the hospital till Sunday, and we didn't know what to do with her. I was actually going to take her into my home because we didn't have a foster, and we couldn't put her back in the barn. And, it's amazing how social media is just such a blessing to rescue animals. And in this case, somebody saw one of our posts and they shared it on their Nextdoor app. And this was a woman that didn't even know about our rescue. She had been in rescue for many, many years, super experienced, such a lovely woman. Her name's Marianne. She emailed us on Saturday night, and she said, I would love to help her if I can. And it just really depends if I can lift her. And I said, well, why don't you just come out and meet her with me on Sunday when she's getting released? And I said, if it doesn't work out, you don't have to worry, because I'm going to take her. So then there's no guilt, because sometimes rescues guilt you into things. Oh, if you don't take this dog, he's going to die. Well, no, if you don't take this dog, I'm going to take her. And I can physically pick up this 60-pound dog and carry her everywhere, because when we brought her into the vet on Thursday, she was lifeless in her legs. She couldn't support herself. Now, the good news is she did have a little bit of a response to the prednisone and the steroids, to where she could start to stand, but she was a wobbly mess. Her world was still spinning, but they put one of these really easy harnesses on her. So the most beautiful thing happened. She met me on Sunday. We chatted for about an hour and a half. Prior to that, I was actually at KCMO helping open our barn. And I don't know, you guys don't see me on this. I wear sweats every day of my life because I live on a farm and you just get muddy with dogs. I did not realize, even though I opened the red barn here at 4 a.m. and then I went to the gray barn, it was raining with the red barn here. So I went to the gray barn in the same sweats, literally cotton sweats. Okay. So I was in cotton sweats. It was torrential downpour. So I was not prepared. I'm like, F it. I'm just walking dogs for 2 hours. I sat in Mission Med Vet, and there were puddles just coming like out of my pants. And then every now and then somebody would walk in and they'd be like, a dog peed. And I'd be like, that's me. Like, that's literally the water that's just oozing out of my legs. I was frozen. And I was sitting there, and they make you wait there forever too. So this was the release of Mila Rose coming to me. So maybe Marianne just took pity on me because I looked homeless and soaking and freezing as I'm shivering. But she was such a lovely woman. And when they walked Mila Rose out, we have this video. I was shocked because like she was doing like a kick walk where she wasn't bending her knees, and you could tell her she was off, but she was standing and she was walking with the assistance of the easy walker. And Marianne's like, I can do this. I can do this. And she just lit up. And it was such a beautiful moment. And I'm like, I would hug you, but I'm soaking wet. And she said, please don't. And I totally understood that. And I love how some of the worst situations connect you with the most beautiful people. And I would have never met her. And she's now fostering another dog for us. And she was meant to save Milo Rose. Now, we did just say goodbye to Milo Rose today. And by saving Milo Rose, I mean giving her peace. And we never actually found out what was wrong with her. And that was the problem, was that we couldn't treat it. And I will say this all the time. Sometimes one of the most loving things that you can ever do for an animal is to put your own love aside and to let them go, and to put your love for them first. And so we said goodbye to Mila at 11 a.m. today. And she was surrounded by love. And that's all we can ever hope for, I think, as a human being, as an animal, is that your life is touched by love. And that's what you get to leave with. Mm-hmm. And gosh, this was a hard weekend. And Thursday, we had a dog come into our care after, a beautiful, beautiful boxer, young boxer, all white. His name was Sarge, and he came into our care after he was attacked by two dogs. And, people get into what were the circumstances, go after the owners. When you're in a crisis, when it's 911, and when someone is asking you for help with a dog that's life is on the line, I don't care. Like, I don't care what the circumstances are in that moment. That's Sarge. Yeah. And he was just the most gentle soul. He didn't even fight back. And, I kind of crushed myself on this one because they said that he was stable and that he was going to be fine. He did have a puncture in his lung, and he had a puncture in his trachea, and his ears were anybody that knows that when a dog's ear is bit, they just pour blood. Mm-hmm. So you're talking a beautiful white boxer soaked in blood, but it was the trachea and it was the lung that they were worried about. So we said, absolutely, he stays in the vet all weekend. And we did take him into our care that Thursday night. And it was never a question of, what's the cost? It was, what does he need? Let's do it, and we will find a way. And I had such a funny feeling about him. And I wrote a long post about this. I think it was Friday night. I could not stop thinking about Penny. And Penny was one of our original 5 dogs that came in. She was a little rat terrier, my first little love. I've never loved a little dog, ever. And this little dog, she just touched my soul. And anytime that I would leave the barn, she would stand at the window and howl. And it was just the cutest thing. And it broke my heart because my Mugsy in my home did not like little dogs. So I couldn't take her in my home. But all that night, I couldn't stop thinking about Penny because, it was about 5 days before Christmas in 2018, a volunteer left food out. And that was a time where we had the completely open living environment, and we did not know that we had a dog in there that was food aggressive. I walked in the barn at 5 a.m. on, I don't even know what day it was. And I found Penny in a pool of blood. And I picked her up, and she was still breathing. And I carried her to my car and I raced her to the vet. And there was something about Sarge and just kind of the injuries and, we all get PTSD from things that change you forever. And I don't know if it was that, but it was like, it wasn't even flashbacks, but it was just like this feeling. And so all night I was just thinking about Penny and I didn't sleep much. And then I finally fell asleep and I had a dream that I was in Blue Pearl, which is where Penny died and where Sarge was. And I don't know if your dreams are like this, but somebody was talking to me in the dream, but I couldn't hear them, but I could hear it. Like I could tell that they were talking to me. And they said that I was in Blue Pearl, and that type of grief where you don't want to look anyone in the eye because they'll just see your sorrow. And it was just so heavy. And they looked at me and they said Sarge had died. And I walked out of Blue Pearl and I woke up at 4 a.m. soaked in sweat from that nightmare. And normally I get up and go and do the dogs, but it was Saturday morning. I'm like, I'm just going to go back to bed. And 5 or 4:50, I woke up and I had just missed a call. And it was Julie telling me that Sarge had died. And so it was, and then it's like, okay, get your stuff together. Look, I held back. I almost said shit, but I didn't. Get your stuff together. And because I'm a very big believer as what energy I have to not carry it into the barn. Now, when I'm sad, I feel sad. And like the sadness just came out later. But for the dogs that are in the barn that have no one else but me, it's not fair to them for me not to be fully present. And sometimes when I haven't been fully present, I've actually gotten bit because I've forgotten that like this dog doesn't want my hand in the kennel and things like that. So I just got it together. And the most amazing thing is that in my worst mood, most awful day, even when I don't want to smile and I feel like the world is falling down, they help me smile. Like even when I don't want to smile, like it's just like this. Even when I want to go in there and just crawl into a ball and bury myself in a hole, they help me remember that life continues even when I don't want it to. And so I was with the dogs all morning, and then I did a live and I shared what was going on, and I shared that we were likely saying goodbye to Mila Rose. And then I just cried all day. Literally cried all day. I had not met Sarge. I just saw his photo, and I saw his photo about, Sheila, you probably lose it because it looks like a dog that you would have in your home.
Mhm.
And it was cat friendly, kid friendly, dog friendly. Like this is a dog that we could have got adopted, like that, and this wouldn't have happened. And it's like, okay, well, you put it all on your shoulders and then you just let it all go. And then you kind of start all over again. And I that's why, I shared that. I know I've shared this with you guys and I shared it so many times. Whenever you're happy, nobody ever tells you not to be happy when you're happy. So when you're sad, let yourself be sad. Otherwise, if you bottle it up inside, you're going to carry that forever. And that's why you see so many people that don't make it in rescue, that they can't go beyond. I think the average length in rescue is about 5 years. Compassion fatigue is real. I have seen the most amazing people do horrific things in the name of rescue because of compassion fatigue, because they do whatever they think is right to save a life. Now, does that mean stacking 50 kennels on top of each other in a garage and these dogs or cats never getting out with feces everywhere? That is not rescue.
We had
That is
for our
not right.
listeners, our new listeners, we had an episode on fatigue.
Yeah.
What was the two
I think
different
it's
ones?
like-
Compassion fatigue. Yeah.
Yeah. Was it
So-
last season?
Yeah, it was last
Last season.
season. It was a very, very detailed podcast, and I learned a lot from it. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Just the different outlets
Mhm.
and how exactly what you said of not letting it bottle up because that is the
Yeah.
easy thing to do until it's
Yeah.
not.
So we've actually had some weeks where we've lost double-digit numbers of animals, but this week it was 2. But it was 2 that affected me in a way that I didn't anticipate. And maybe I carried it, because life is crazy and stressful and you just go, 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 go. And then it just bottles up and explodes. but it's kind of love exploding, because you don't carry this grief, you don't carry this pain if you don't love these animals. And that's why I said, when loss is intertwined with love and the tears, it's just, I almost wrote it. We have a Rainbow Bridge Facebook group. Grief is not easy, and the public doesn't typically like it. Like, you get people that shy away from it or shun it, or there's a lot of really not so nice people in America because grief is ugly and uncomfortable, and you're just like, okay, is it contagious? Because you don't want death to be contagious, and God forbid, even though we all go through it. So I was like, I was going to write it in there, but I've learned from my own personal loss that if I'm feeling one way, and I know how to write things. I literally just write what's in my head. They're usually long run-on sentences, kind of like how I talk to you guys right now. But I can spit it out.
These are long paragraphs.
Yes.
Run-on
Spit it
paragraphs.
out in the exact same way and words as I think, so people can follow my rambling nonsense. But it makes perfect sense in my head, and I eventually
It makes
get to
sense
the
to
point.
me because I
Yeah.
know you, and I'm like, people that don't know you be like, dang, does she ever just stop? Is there
No,
a
well,
period somewhere?
no, there's no periods. Life's too short for periods. But I was like, okay, I can write in this group and I can be sad, or I can share it on the main page for someone that has the same feelings as I do, but doesn't know how to find the words and might feel alone. And I was like, this is the platform God gave me to share what's in my heart, that I know others have that same pain. And when you share your pain and someone connects in a world of 8 billion people, you feel a little less alone. And and I think that's why Always and Forever is so special, because it connects people all across the world. Guys, we have one of our most amazing people on our adoption team that's in Singapore. So it's like, she is top notch with helping us with it. I don't know what we do without her. And that's the whole thing. I don't know what we do without each and every person that shares their heart, their love, and their gifts with us. And that's why we're so special. We wouldn't have this podcast without you two having the courage to look at a box full of cords and watching a million YouTube videos and saying, okay, we can figure this out. And that's what is so amazing. If we wait until somebody else, until it's all lined up, until we know how to do everything,
Jen,
we're waiting
if we would
forever.
have started off with Zoom calls, we would never been through that trouble.
Yeah. Well, oops.
Did we start this?
She said, oops.
Post-COVID, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to look up because I haven't looked at our stats in a
You can do anything now. Look at that. You're welcome.
I know. We
See,
still keep talking about it, that we're gonna do it like on TikTok where they go back and forth. We hit over 20K. We have 20.3K
that's amazing.
downloads all time.
I think
That's amazing.
David's Day was our last one, or no? Yeah,
Um,
I think David's Day was our last one, had the most episodes, and
Yeah,
that was a month ago.
So offended. I am seriously, why am I not the top one? I don't
no,
understand.
there's one. The Fireside chat catch up with Jen in April had 1,600 downloads. That might
All
be,
right.
that is the biggest one. I don't even, what were we
Okay.
talking about in April? Who knows?
I don't know, but okay, this one might not get as many because we started with a really sad subject. Let's start with
but
happiness.
I was gonna just say you had two very good updates from, I can never say the name right, Mikhail.
Mikhail. Oh my God,
Mikhail
Mikhail.
Osawatomie,
Yeah. Okay.
and then
Yeah.
the dog who had the burn on his back.
Derek.
Derek.
Is that right? Derek? Oh, I
There was the
forgot.
two big, like, extreme cases that have now found
His
help.
new name, well, in my defense, is Dwight. It's Dwight.
Dwight.
His new name is JJ. So I remember the
Okay.
new name. It's not Derek.
Derek.
Whoever thought that? That was ridiculous. Dwight is a terrible name. I blame Kelly. The really terrible names Kelly comes up with. She goes rogue. We have name game. And every time I get kicked out of it, she makes a bad one. But Mikhail is being adopted. He is our miracle dog. We did the meet and greet. He's going to have an amazing, amazing family. It's just so exciting. But if you guys have followed the story, please keep Julie in your prayers, because again, love and letting go and, moving forward. I did share with her, it's so beautiful. It's like his soul was meant to be connected to hers. And you got to get Julie. We need a special episode with Mikhail where it's just Julie talking to you guys about Mikhail, because the journey
Because he has his
of
own
that,
website and everything now, right, too, to follow. Or
he does. And like the care that she put, like she would sleep beside him that first 2 nights. Like it's just so beautiful, and nobody can tell the story the way she can. I could probably do a really good job, but let's just let her do that justice. So, what else? Oh, Sawanami, we
Potawatomi.
broke ground. Yeah, so we've got a new we've got
It
renovations
looks
going on there.
amazing.
It is. It's so exciting. We still need to raise $250,000. We've raised all in 260,000. So we're literally halfway there. The fences are going up, the concrete's poured. It's going to be a meet and greet room,
I
a cat
love the
room.
yellow brick road.
Yeah. And so if you donate $1,000 towards the renovations, we'll paint a yellow brick in your honor, and then we get 2 yellow
It's
brick
looking
signs up.
good.
So it's when we have the heartbreaking things with Wichita, to know that we went in on a smaller level and we did that exact same thing in a rural pound that nobody else cared about, where every single animal that walked in never walked out. Like the horror stories of Osawatomie there, they just wreck you. But when we think about the present, when you think about the future, it's just hope and joy and love, and to give to such a worthy cause. And like I said, it's almost impossible to stay in a rut when you know the miracles that God has blessed us with every single day. So even amongst the despair, there is literally always hope, and that's what we hold on to, and that's why it's so magical. And TK's tiny home was finished.
Oh
We
my
didn't talk
God.
about that.
His home is so dope.
It is so beautiful.
Can
Okay, I
you do
can't.
like a recording of the MTV cribs of like, welcome to our crib? And it's like,
I think she did already.
did they? Did I miss it?
I don't know that we
Jen
did
went in
that.
there one morning,
But
and
like as a parody
it
of
looks
MTV.
so.
Oh yeah.
It looks
We
good.
can do that. It's so okay. If you guys don't know TK, he is a dog that is not adoptable. Please trust me when I say he's not adoptable. We don't do this because we want to hoard dogs. We do it because he's safest with us. And he has to be in a calm environment. He has triggers with high stress, and that's dogs barking. And he is not a dog that is meant to be in a home too. But that doesn't mean he can't have a wonderful life. I can't describe the peace he has and the joy that he has. I have not seen him this happy ever. And he's just wiggly, and it's just the most beautiful. And that's all from giving him a tiny home that's quiet, and it's his, and it's consistency, routine, and peace.
There's another dog
That's the best
who's
thing
the
God
other
has
dog that
done.
has, is his name Cooper?
Copper?
Copper.
Copper. Oh my
What we
God.
have to do
Right
is
next
we've
door.
got to seal the floor. Yeah. Once we seal the concrete floor, then they both can move in there. Now they're not going to live together. It's a duplex. They can
Right.
play together, but again, they're singles. They're both of them are with us for life. And I can't imagine a better life for a dog that has to be in a sanctuary, that can't be at home, than that. They really do. It's better than a
It's
lot
so
of
cute.
people. I don't
I want
know
one.
what to say. But it's so cute. I totally could live there. So what else? The
Tux.
gala is coming up. That's
One last big adoption news, because
oh my God,
hurt
Tux
so
got
much.
adopted. Okay.
Because he's been one
We
of the
really have
longest
had so
residents,
much
right?
happen. So he was at the Gray Barn when we opened the Gray Barn. So he's been in our care 3 years. 3 years. Now think about that. Think about how many rescues and shelters keep dogs that long in their care. They don't, because that takes up a spot to put in an adoptable that can go out, that put in another adoptable. So in their mind, they think this one life goes to heaven, and then we can save 100 others over the course of 3 years with that one spot. Sure, they might be right. But what about that one life? What about that Tux that we knew and that we loved? And then it just took meeting the right person. He instantly fell in love with him too. It was the cutest thing in the whole world. And then Megan did the live, and Tux is like, I'm out of here. He didn't even want to do the live. He just wanted to go to the car. And it's just, that's why you can't give up. That's why we can't give up on the ones that people deem not worthy. And Tux is dog reactive. He is. There's no doubt about it. Like he's squirrel reactive. He's bunny reactive. You better be strong if you're walking Tux. But it's just, it really is never giving up, and always believing that we can make today better than it was yesterday to build a better tomorrow. And that's what we do in everything we do and everything we are. And so, yeah, when I say we had a really tough week, we've had miracles in that week. So shame on me for saying that. But I know the last one we did, lessons and blessings and everything, that it really is there. So
So the gala.
The gala, gala, I don't know which one is called.
Same.
So
we
that's
we have that same exact conversation, the back and forth, I think every single year.
no idea. Yeah, it's December 7th. It's at the Uptown Theater. If you have not been to one of our galas, please come. It's such a beautiful experience to be together. Now, this is the last year we're at Uptown Theater, so it's even more special. But it kind of is just a way to remember to celebrate each other, to celebrate the lives we've saved, and to celebrate having the courage to dream. I know I say that all the time, but it really, really, really does take courage to dream because so many people are afraid. What if you fail? What if you start and you can't finish? Well, we've started Osawatomie renovations, and unless we raise $250,000, we won't finish. So we need to raise it. So there's literally no plan B. If you have a plan B, my opinion is you're planning to fail. And so it is truly finding a way without knowing it, with knowing that somehow, some way, God's going to guide you through it. And that's how we started this rescue. That's how we've continued this rescue, and that's how we draw the very best people in the world to help us. And that's you guys. That's everyone. So it's funny. I had somebody ask me if we were. Oh, go ahead.
No, never mind. Go ahead. You're on a roll.
Oh no.
In the middle of a sentence.
I had someone ask me if we were like a Christian organization or, some define. And I said, I think we're just a faith organization, and it's, you believe whatever you want. But if you believe in love, whatever that love is, however you want to define it, I think that's what unifies us across the world. I happen to be Christian, but that doesn't mean that everybody is. And I'm very, very open about my faith, but I also think it's more on the spiritual side, because I think God's everywhere and everything in all we do. And it's up to us to open our hearts to that. And you can either see this world as dark, or you can look for the light, because darkness doesn't come without light. And it really is up to us to find it.
What's the latest on Kansas City East location?
So it's funny that you asked that, because I have all these dreams in my head, and sometimes our beautiful board try to keep me in this world when I live in this world. I see our future, and I see how we can create this future. So I do have ideas for that. And not at liberty to say they made me promise that I wouldn't. I can tell you that we still have a tenant in there right now, and they are building on their land, and they can't get their permits. They're waiting on their permits. So there should be out around March. Now, you guys, we still have to raise $4 million to renovate our structure. So even when we get the $4 million to renovate the structure, then that's permits, that's, plans, that's construction. When the money comes, which I know it will, because it's such a beautiful purpose to have our own vet, to have suite-like shelters, to have an area where people want to go and visit. It doesn't feel like a shelter. And maybe that's a whole nother episode, is where we just talk about the dream of KCMO and how we see it being a different kind of shelter. Because then the little red barn goes back to the oldies, but that takes time. So I do envision construction being complete by Oh my God, it's 2025 next year. I have to say 2026. That's horrible. I want it to be sooner. I like things done now. But I do have an idea. I'll share it with you offline, and then we'll talk about it on our next episode, because I promised I wouldn't, and I try to stay true to my word sometimes. Unless it's a really big dream, then I say screw it, and I have to share it. So good luck bottling me up.
I feel like
next
that's how we
episode.
got into KCMO East anyways, was a conversation.
It absolutely is. Thank you, Sheila. That was my whole point.
I've been there.
Because I know people will believe. And it's so good. And if you connect the dots, like we talked about it a little bit on this episode, I'm planting the seed subliminally to all of you people in podcast land.
Perfect.
But I'll be sharing it this week, I think.
We get this.
That's all I have, you guys.
Well, then, Sai, it's your turn.
Oh, we need a dog for the coverage, Jen.
Maddox. Let's do Maddox.
Yes, let's do Maddox. Tell us a little bit about Maddox.
My main man, Maddox. So Maddox, he is slow to trust new people. And he really, really declined in our barn. Sometimes shelters are really high stress. Even ours, no matter how much we do, they get out 6 to 8 times a day. They're in play groups. It doesn't matter, guys. Nothing really compares to a home. And Maddox came to us from Wichita Animal Shelter where he was severely starved. And like you're talking McHale thin, like literally his waist was like inches wide, and this is big boy pit bull. So, he struggled at our barn, and we reached out, and he went to a board and train, and he is now a foster in my home, and he's great with my dogs. He is so sweet. My dogs are not trained at all, so my videos are chaos. So if you watch my household, it's like dogs running, bouncing. I used to have an old dog home. I don't know what happened. I feel like God has a sense of humor, because now there are like a lot of dogs bouncing around all over the place. But Maddox is available for adoption. Guys, if you're looking for a lover, a protector, a snuggler, but you have to earn his trust. And so it would require at least 2 to 3 meet and greets where he gets to know you. And I actually I love that. I love it when you have to earn a dog's trust. And then when you have it and you can feel it, you're like, hey, this is really cool. I'm pretty special. He chose me. So he is looking for an adopter. If you go to alwaysinforever.org/forms, you can apply. And a foster adopter, I'm just a temporary spot so that he's not at the barn, so that the training doesn't, go backwards. But he's a really great guy. That's all I have on him.
Well, hopefully
Maybe
we can
2,
have a
3,
home.
4. I don't know how old he is. He's cute. Who cares?
We'll find some good photos and put them on the cover. Promote
Okay.
it. Hopefully clear out some couch space for you to sit somewhere.
And we got Pupsgiving coming up November 23rd. We always celebrate the holidays with our animals and our people. So if you come out to our Little Red Barn, we will have our annual flag football game. I would like to say that my team has won every single year. So if you're looking for a team,
I think we should go
it turns
and
into
be
tackle.
against Jen, so we could shut her down.
I've won every year. You guys have said you were going to show up. Si, you showed up the first year. Was it the first year?
always travel.
Or was it the second year?
Let
Maybe it was
me
the second
figure
year.
out when I'm leaving for Tennessee.
Okay.
For sure.
That's all I got.
Wow. That was less than 40 minutes.
No, that was not less than 40 minutes.
That was just like solid hour, I think.
Yeah. Thanks, Jen, for joining us tonight. Yeah, you can.
Hey, there was a lot to catch up. It literally has been over a month since the last episode. So that was good. And I can't even say that we're going to have a lot within the next, because then we're in the holidays. We'll probably do like 1 more episodes this year.
And then we got to
Let's do a Christmas one. Yeah.
What? Yeah.
No, you got to do a McHale one. Let's see if you got to do a McHale one.
For like right before the holidays of like feel good stories.
Yeah.
Maybe we should do like feel good stories of the year around the holidays.
And then because season 3 has been running for a long time.
Like a miracles one. Let's do like miracle
that's
McHale.
A good one.
You can let's have Sally Sue on. We could have her mom on. That would be our miracle dogs. What about that?
Yeah. We'll put it together. I know,
Jen,
before
please, no more than 4 people, please.
Like we're already going to be in a message group with 30 people that you're going to be.
Jen, no more than 4, please.
Okay. Hey, this is how we learn lessons, ladies. So
that was a lesson learned.
Okay.
A lot.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. Well,
I have so much to offer. Are you wrapping this up? Oh,
I'm trying to. It's been so long. As always, it's never too late for happily ever after.